Meeting of the Gallatin Municipal Planning Commission for Monday, December 11th, 2023. Right off the bat, I do want to make an announcement that item number 10, the banks of Lot 4 rezoning with preliminary master development plan has been deferred per the request of the applicant due to the effects of the weather that we've had the last few days. No public comment, discussion, or vote on this item will occur at tonight's Planning Commission meeting. So if you are here in regards to item number 10, that will appear on the January agenda and work session. We'll begin with an invocation. Albert, I think will you do the honor and
Let us, my gracious God, we bow before your presence just to say thank you for our assembly here today. And as we stand by, Master, we're praying for those who have lost during the tornado, loss of lives, loss of property. We thank you for watching over our community, keeping us safe. While we lost the materialistic thing, you spared so many lives. So now, Master, let us be about the businesses before us, that we do the things that you find pleasing in your sight, for the betterment in your community. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Mr. Wilson, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mary Ann, will you please call the roll?
Chair Purrier,
Here.
Vice Chair Harris,
Here.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Councilwoman George, Mr. Strouder,
Here.
Mayor Brown, Mr. Morrell.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Does the secretary have prior minutes to submit for approval?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got minutes October the 30th and November the 13th. I move we approve.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes and a second by Albert. Is that correct? Yeah. Any discussion on the prior minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approval of the minutes indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. Before I move to read the agenda and have a public comment on that, I want to go out of order and make a quick comment, an announcement. I think everybody probably knows that this is Bill McCord's last meeting with us, and he is retiring. And I just want to tell y'all that in all the time I've served on Planning Commission, when he first came on to Planning Commission, or he first came on as our planning director, he sent out an invite and invited us, all the members of the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals, to attend a TAPA conference, the Tennessee Association of Professional Planners. Is that, no, I don't have the acronym right. I've been there many times. And we had never gotten an invite to go to training like that. The only training that we had gotten was the obligatory annual training, usually in the city hall basement or maybe at the library. And twice a year, ever since then, he has made that educational opportunity available to people who serve on boards like this, because he understands how important it is to educate the people who are serving in this capacity. And I really respect that. I've admired the fact that Bill has elevated this commission and everybody that serves and made us a little bit smarter. And his impact on the city in a positive way will be felt for decades to come. So I really appreciate his service. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll read through the agenda very quickly for those that might not have a copy. Item number 1 is surety renewals and extensions, City of Gallatin. Item number 2 is Westfield Phase 2, Section B, final plat. Item number 3 is Nexus TN Phase 1, Section 5A, final plat. Item number 4 is Nexus TN Phase 1, South, Section B, final plat. Item number 5 is Nexus TN South, Section 2, preliminary plat. Item number 6 is Kensington Downs Phase 4, preliminary plat. Item number 7 is Twin Eagles Phase 15, a re-subdivision of Section A, Tract 1, final plat. Item number 8 is Westfield Amenity Center and Pool. It's a revised final master development plan. And item number 9 is re-subdivision of Jennings Park, Lot 1 and 2. Those 9 items are the consent agenda items, unless somebody pulls an item off of that and places it on the regular agenda. Item number 10, as I mentioned before, is the banks at Lot 4, and that has been deferred at the applicant's request. Item number 11, into the regular agenda. Item number 11 is the station Gallatin Chamber of Commerce signage. It's an alternate site plan. Item number 12 is Red River Villas site plan. Item number 13 is 203 West Main Street change of use site plan. Item number 14 is the crossings at Hidden Creek, a rezoning with preliminary master development plan. Item number 15 is renovation church, rezoning. And item number 16 is East Main Patel rezone, a rezoning with preliminary master development plan. I have failed to mention that every one of those except 11, 12, and 13 have public comment associated with them. Where are we up to? 17, thank you. 17 is Fox Creek amended preliminary master development plan, which will include a public comment. Item number 18 is Volunteer Traditions, an amended preliminary master development plan and revised final master development plan, which will also include a public comment. Item number 19 is McDonald's Restaurant and Newman's Crossing, a revised final master development plan. Item number 20 is GDE North Station, a final plat, and that's it. So at this time, I will open a public comment to any agenda-related, or actually, at this time, I will ask, is there anybody who wishes to pull any of items number 1 through 9 off of the consent agenda and place it on the regular agenda? Seeing none, then I will open a public comment on any agenda-related items. If you would like to speak on any of the items I've read tonight, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Yes, please come forward. And may I ask, which item is it that you're interested in speaking on?
The agenda is taking a really long time to download, so I'm going to ask Mr. Bill McCord to help me with this.
It's item number 19, the
19.
McDonald's Restaurant.
Thank you. And I know that I need to say my name. So my name is Tiade Tongaloa. You spell my first name T as in today, E as in elephant, A as in apple, D as in David, E as in elephant. And my last name is Tongaloa. I would like to speak to item 19. I am a resident of Newman's Crossing, and the McDonald's is going to be built directly next to that facility. The shrubs that was there to separate McDonald's and what that space is and the residential space has been pulled up. And so I don't even know how to say this, but we, the residents of Newman Crossman community, would like a fence there, and or for them to replace the shrubbery as well as a sound barrier and a light barrier. And that is all. How do I conclude?
I think that's it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much for your
Thank you, John.
input.
Oh, and I would also like to, I don't know who is here on behalf of Meritage, but I would also like to speak for the representative that is representing Meritage today after this meeting. I don't know if I say that here, but I want to say it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on any agenda-related item? Seeing none, then I will close the public comment and entertain a motion. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 9, and I will recuse myself from items 3, 4, and 5.
And I'm also recuse myself on 3, 4, and 5, and with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Harris, seconded by Councilwoman George. Any discussion on the consent agenda items? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda items 1 through 9 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, consent agenda approved. We'll move directly to item number 11 on the agenda, which is resolution number 2023-156, the station, that's Gallatin Chamber of Commerce, signage, alternate sign site plan. Which staff member is presenting this?
I am Chairman. The owner and applicant request approval of an alternative sign plan for the station consisting of a wall-mounted sign and projecting sign on a .45 acre lot, Zone CC Core Commercial. This is located at 117 West Main Street. The Gallatin zoning ordinance allows a property owner to request approval of an alternative sign plan, which is not in strict compliance with the zoning code, but meets the intent of the code. The wall sign will be painted in black script on the front wall of the building above the main entrance. It exceeds the size allowance for signs in the CC zone district. And the projecting sign will be an illuminated marquee sign located at the northwest corner of the building. This double-sided sign will be constructed of white bend neon tubing and a black face panel. The sign will project over the public sidewalk maintained by the city. The applicant must obtain approval of a hold harmless agreement with the city for this sign, and the sign also exceeds the size allowance for signs in the CC zone district. Both sign discrepancies are described in the charts in your report. The increased size of the wall-mounted sign is justifiable due to the 77-foot width of the front of the building, which makes it one of the widest buildings on or near the square. A wall sign that strictly follows the zoning ordinance would proportionally look too small compared to other building signs in the area. The projecting sign, which prominently features Gallatin in the center, would serve not only as a Gallatin Chamber identifier, but also as an entry sign into the downtown square. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve resolution number 2023-1556. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's the representative for the applicant?
Good evening, Commission. My name is Clay Haynes. My office is at 106 Public Square, right here on the square. I think Jillian did a fantastic job. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I only have a comment. I think it's a great project. You guys are doing a wonderful thing over there, and I'm excited to see it done, but that'll make a motion to approve it with staff's 4 conditions of approval.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Harris, seconded by Councilwoman George. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, then call for the vote. All in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. And opposed? Okay. Motion approved. Thank you, Clay. Item number 12 is resolution number 2023-158, Red River Villas site plan. Which staff member? Jim?
Jim Carpenter, staff planner. The owner and applicant request approval of a site plan for Red River Villas consisting of a 17-unit multifamily residential use on a 4.52 acre parcel zoned R15 medium density residential district located at 721 Red River Road. The owner and applicant have submitted architecture that meets the condition that matches the conditional use permit. Staff recommends approval of resolution number 2023-158 with 21 conditions.
Thank you. Do we have a representative for the applicant present?
Good evening. I'm Randy Lane with TTL. We're the engineers for the project representing MSI owners. Be glad to answer any questions.
Do you agree with all 21 conditions?
Yes, we do.
Open floor to discussion or questions.
I will say, when this project first came through, I don't know, a year or so ago, I was pretty adamant against it, just the way it was designed. And I appreciate you guys bringing something back that's appropriate for the location, so.
I agree with those statements as well. I'll make a motion to approve with all of staff's conditions.
We have a motion on the floor by C.J. Morrell to approve with staff's 21 conditions. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I was looking the wrong way. Is that you? Second by Matt Harris. Any discussion? Seeing none, they'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, motion approved unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 13 is resolution number 2023-159, 203 West Main Street, a change of use site plan.
Martinez, planning staff. The owner and applicant are requesting approval of a site plan for 203 West Main Street. This property requires a change of use to be approved by Planning Commission for Animal Care Limited. The existing building is currently vacant. Its uses serve as the Aggie's print shop. Within the CC district, it does allow animal care use with conditions. One of those conditions limits this building footprint to be less than 4,000 square feet. The total square footage of the building is 5,375. The applicant did note it that a little over 1,000 square feet will be used for office and storage space. Another note to add is with this property, there is no parking minimums that they do have to meet. As is, there is spaces that are being used adjacent to South Locust Street that are currently unstriped. The applicant does plan on using that as parking for the commercial property. Planning and engineering do recommend that if the applicant plans on providing parking spaces, that they be code compliant and meet the minimum design standards, essentially meaning that they would be providing parallel spaces rather than the ones shown on this plan. Apart from that, planning does recommend approval with 4 conditions.
Before we hear from a representative for the applicant, would engineering like to comment on this as part of staff's report?
Sure. So these change of use site plans can be difficult. That our existing non-compliant ones, we would not approve a site plan per our regs that looks like this today. Our regulations, they don't really specify, how much on a change of use site plan they should be responsible for going up to compliance. Given I don't know how wide the whole parking lot is, but they essentially have a driveway that's wider than what the municipal code allows for in this situation. So that's why we felt that the best way to bring them up to compliance would be the parallel parking spaces rather than the perpendicular spaces. But like I said, the ordinances and the regulations that we have, it's difficult on how much this change of use is responsible for existing nonconformities.
So is your recommendation reflected in condition 1 of the 4 conditions?
Yes, providing the parallel spots.
Okay.
That's correct.
No, I'd like to, if there's a representative for the applicant, please come forward.
John, I'll have to recuse myself from this item.
So noted.
Corey Nelson, 615 Design Group. We agree with all comments minus comment 1 from engineering for parking. Looking at this site, our client is not looking to knock down a building and put up a new building. It's not new construction. It's using the existing features, existing parking. And if you look around the entire block, there's on-street parking, even with no ADA parking that we would be required and we would put on. We're just kind of looking to be treated as in kind as the entire street of Locust and Main Street as well, if you look all through Gallatin. Right now, I know there's no requirement for parking, but everyone has parking, and to limit us with the use, it just doesn't sit well with us, I guess, on this part. If you look at the use, which is retail, if we just use strict retail, there'd be more daily trips generated, but there'd be no parking requirements and they could use the same lot that they have. But all we're asking for is a couple spaces that are in line with the whole block. Basically, if a client would like to to defer if this is going to be voted on with condition 1 approval.
Okay.
You're just limited to 2, I mean, parallel parking, you're basically limited to 1, maybe 2, depending on the way you can do it, and also the ADA requirement with parallel, you wouldn't be able to get to the work, and then my client would have to do outside exterior building improvements for the whole lot right there, just to get that to ADA compliance, instead of just the ramp that would be for the perpendicular part.
If I can repeat back what I heard you say for the benefit of the planning commissioners, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that before anyone makes a motion to approve with staff's 4 conditions, he's asking that you please note that you grant his request for deferral rather than making that motion. Is that what you were saying?
Correct, correct. Yes, if it's going to be in the negative, yeah.
I think that's a reasonable request. Yeah. So open the floor to questions and discussion.
Happy to answer any questions, sorry.
What is the use of the building, animal care? What does that mean?
Basically, they would have pets come in and they would be looked after, if I'm correct in that assumption. Animal care is a very vague term, so sometimes there's a very specifics that I'd like for the client to answer.
So if I could ask a question of staff or engineering, is the reason that there are no parking requirements for this building because of the zoning designation core commercial?
Yes.
So this is looking at it like we would look at a change of use of some place on the square, for example.
A little bit. It's a standalone building,
Yep.
which makes it have to do the change of use process. Most of the buildings in the square are attached to each other, so they don't have that requirement.
So just so that I understand that, if somebody came in with a, I don't know, a dance club or something that has a lot of traffic, there would be no parking requirements for this building. Doesn't matter what the use
No, but they'd
is.
have to do a change of use site plan. so
Oh,
that
change
there
of
would-
use.
For general, previous use was general retail, so if it remains general retail sales, then we wouldn't be going through this process. We had to add that condition just because it doesn't meet current design standards, but the board does have the ability to strike through that condition if they see fit.
The owner maybe wants to talk.
Oh, yes, sir. You want to speak? Yes, sir. No, please go right ahead.
Well, it's a dog daycare and boarding.
If you could state your name for the just so
Brandon
it's-
Maynard, franchisee for Houndstown. Yeah, it's just a dog boarding and daycare facility. With a spa, they could have a bath. There's no grooming or anything like that.
Dogs stay there during the day. They can have grooming if they want.
No grooming,
Oh,
just bathing. Nail clipping, bathing, no haircuts. We're not
no what?
No haircuts,
Oh.
no trimming of the fur. But
It's not a
it's a dog
salon.
daycare. It's essentially like a child's daycare, but for dogs, right?
Okay.
There's not going to be, even with these spaces, there's not going to be substantial traffic.
Well, people coming to drop off their dog and leaving, so it's just an in and out.
In and out, for the most part, yeah.
I just,
What about the sound? The sound of the building?
The walls, you won't hear it. It'll be, there's sound walls on the inside, so you're not going to hear dogs barking.
How many dogs do you anticipate?
It could be between 50 and 100. It could be.
And they're quiet.
Be surprised, but yes, unless the model of the business is not like a lot of other dog daycares. The dogs are with dogs, not with humans. So the reason your dog barks is because it sees a human. It sees, so in this type of daycare, the dogs play with dogs.
They don't bark at each other?
Not as much as you would think. Not as much as you would think.
All right. My dog barks at dogs, that's all.
Matt?
No, I guess comments on this, we've looked at several of these situations in this downtown area over the years where you've got existing structures trying to change a different use. And I think, I don't recall the exact street address of a couple of them, but they've all been kind of similar things. It's something that was built a long time ago when traffic was different, and and even the change of use is going to be a lighter impact on the day-to-day traffic. So, I don't really have a problem with the parking that they're asking for, primarily because I think these are the kind of things we need to encourage to be coming to our downtown area, especially as we're going to want to encourage more growth in that downtown core. And I could see a lot of people as we get projects in that downtown area, people can walk and take their dog there, and as this area turns over. So, and to the point, I think the current use, I mean, it could be general retail and have a lot more traffic impact, and it changes nothing. So I'd much rather see a doggy daycare that looks good on that corner and improves the area, even if we have to have some parking that is still granted better than what the other options would be. But just my thoughts on it.
Are you putting that in form of motion, or you want to hold off for right now?
Motion to approve striking condition 1.
We have a motion on the floor to approve striking condition number 1 of the 4 conditions. Do I hear a second? I'll second that.
Mr. Chair, if you're going to strike condition number 1, I would prefer that you also provide a statement, at least, that the parking described in the comp plan, or excuse me, on the site plan, is an appropriate alternative parking design for this use at this site. Because we don't normally allow for parking to be backing into the right-of-way from private properties. So in this case, you're making an exception by acknowledging that.
Certainly agree with your concerns. Are you saying that when we make the motion, we need to give that the reason for our motion to strike number 1 is
I would like,
paste what you just said?
a finding into that. I think that's kind of what you're leading to. Okay.
I don't like it, but I don't like the alternative of tearing down the building and building something that fits there just to satisfy the parking problem that's existed for a long time. So out of laziness, can I say that we're adding to that motion that the reason for striking number 1 is cut and paste just what Bill just said right there? Unless you want to state it again for me.
He's already.
The condition, we're adding that the reason is that what has been provided is an alternative, an acceptable alternative parking solution.
For this building only.
Use and location.
For the use and location, thank you. Did I hear a second on Matt's motion? I seconded it. Okay, I don't listen to myself. Any other comment, any discussion on that motion? Then all in favor of the motion with striking condition number 1, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, motion approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 14 is resolution number 2023-170, the crossings at Hidden Creek, a rezoning with preliminary master development plan, and this will include a public comment. Which staff member is presenting this item?
I am Chairman.
Thank you, Jillian.
The owner and applicant request to rezone a 64.61 acre parcel from the PGC zoning district to the MRO zoning district with a preliminary master development plan for the crossings at Hidden Creek. This area is totaling a little over 84 acres. They are proposing the construction of 235 single-family detached residential lots, 83 multifamily townhome lots, 2 commercial out parcels. This is located north of Highway 386 and east of Big Station Camp Boulevard. Plan Gallatin designates this area as part of the general urban character area, and it's also within the Big Station Camp Boulevard mixed-use commercial district. The proposed residential development represents a density of approximately 4.96 units per acre, which is consistent with the character area. The Big Station Camp Boulevard mixed-use commercial district calls for predominantly retail, restaurant, other businesses along Big Station Camp, which serve the surrounding residential neighborhoods, and also clarifies that this corridor should be a transition from commercial to various levels of residential behind these commercial developments. Please note that there are some requests for exceptions to yards, lot widths, and lot size from the MRO zoning district. And they also are providing, most of the buffer yards on this plan are code compliant and located within open space tracts. The plan includes 10.47 acres of open space spread across numerous tracts along the floodplain creek and to the north, along Bison Trail and around the townhome lots. These areas will be used for stormwater, landscaping, and buffers. MRO does not have an open space requirement. You will note the extension of Springdale Lane through the Revere Apartments, which are just south of this development. Through this development and crossing back over towards Big Station Camp, staff did include a condition that this road should be considered a collector road to be consistent with the comp plan. Right now, it is shown as a collector road up to Bison Trail, but north of Bison Trail, it looks more like a local road. So I believe they're having discussions with engineering about that topic, but there might need to be some discussion on that this evening. The single-family homes and townhomes do not meet the brick stone requirement of the MRO district. The applicant is requesting to qualify cementitious siding or hardy board as a masonry product for this master plan, which would require an exception from the zoning ordinance. This is the same exception that was granted to McCain Station. The architecture for the commercial lots will meet the 70% brick stone requirement. Those commercial lots will require their own FMDPs, and if one of those developers is interested in an alternative, they will present it at that time. The Planning Department recommends approval of Resolution Number 2023-170. This item will require a public hearing and will move forward to City Council after Planning Commission's review. Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian. Before we hear from a representative for the applicant, I will open a public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak in regards to item number 14, please come forward and state your name for the record.
Good evening, Chairman Puryear. Michelle Juvance, 1335 Long Hollow Pike. I just wanted to make sure that there's going to be enough parking for the residents, because that's something that we hear a lot from citizens, is that, especially with townhouse developments, that there's not enough parking and that the roads are really narrow and that people are parking on the streets, and that it's just too narrow for emergency vehicles to get through. So those are some concerns I was hoping that you would pay attention to and ask those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and ask for a representative for the applicant to step forward.
Hi, good evening. My name is Greg Gamble, and I'm here tonight with Ryan McMaster with Kimley Horn, and we're representing Randy Hoffman, developer of McCain Station. We're really looking at this as an extension of that same quality neighborhood. A lot of the standards and design aspects that we've asked for really align with McCain Stations. We are keeping the front portion commercial and intend on that developing out as commercial. The proposed infrastructure for the extension of the collector road of Bison Trail and tying into Springdale is very important, and we're now reflecting that on our master plan. There is a condition of approval, number 2, that we would like to discuss, and it states modify the design of Springdale Lane Extension north and west of Bison Trail Extension to Collector Road design standards. While we understand the intent behind connectivity, in your engineering report on page 7, it states the engineering division has had conversation with the developer and their engineer of record and will continue to have conversation on what this street cross-section should be as we get further into the design. It's recognized that this is a bit more residential. We want traffic to move at a slower pace and not a fast thoroughfare. And so for that specific condition of approval number 2, we'd just like a little bit more flexibility. We would like a condition of approval that would allow us to work on a modified Collector Road street section, really more appropriate for residential, and engineering has certainly been willing to consider that. So we'd like the opportunity to do that and have that conversation as we move forward. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Let me just lead off with a question for clarification. So that we understand what your desire is for condition 2, how would you request that condition 2 be worded?
Sure. Potentially modify the design of Springdale Lane Extension north and west of Bison Trail Extension to a design standard acceptable to the city of Gallatin Engineering.
Okay. I'll open the floor for
Engineering
questions.
comfortable with that?
Yes, yes. So condition number 2, I was not part of that conversation, that discussion that we had. Like he read off in the report, we've had conversations with engineer and developer about working through this, what that section looks like as we get further into design.
Questions?
You guys are okay with the rest of the conditions? Okay.
I mean, it looks like they've adjusted their roadway network to meet what was stated at the previous work session. I like the fact that it's staying commercial along Big Station Camp Boulevard. I know at the work session, there was a comment about the landscape buffer. That's no longer a condition, right? In between the homes?
They are requesting for an exception along where it borders McCain Station because those lots are the same size
Okay.
and it's the same product. It gave them more room to provide open space tracks along Bison Trail.
And commissioners, forgive me, I apologize. When we made the revisions to the master plan prior to the resubmittal, we added 26 off-street parking spaces in the townhome areas, and I failed to mention that when I got up here, but wanted to point that out to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I noticed in your townhome section, you added some parking, and that's something I've been asking for, so I appreciate that. When it's
You
encourage
knew we heard you.
everybody to continue to make that.
Additionally, in the roadway section, they are providing 8-foot grass strips and street trees. So that matches McCain Station.
That's in the entire plan, all 8-foot grass strips,
If there's trees.
if there's trees?
So the extension of Springdale has a 5-foot grass strip along that area to match what's already constructed.
Okay.
So instead of changing the road design mid-block, we're just going to have our street trees on the outside of the sidewalk and the Greenway Trail in that location.
Questions or entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve modifying condition 2 for the applicant to work with engineering.
I second that.
And
Not to,
with all other conditions.
not to put words in your mouth, but to clarify the condition, I think he was asking to strike everything after the word extension on the second line of condition number 2 and replace it with to a design standard acceptable to Gallatin Engineering.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's the form of the motion. Motion to approve with 10 conditions, modifying condition 2, as just stated, seconded by Councilwoman George. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote then. All in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, motion approved.
Thank you for your time tonight. I just want to say our thoughts and prayers are with those affected by the storms. So, thank you.
Item number 15 is resolution number 2023-171, renovation church rezoning, and this will include a public comment.
All right. The owner and applicant request approval to rezone a 1.65 plus or minus acre portion of a parcel from the A agricultural residential district to the R20 low density residential district located between Woods Ferry Road and Highway 109 at 1699 Woods Ferry Road. The rezoning request is for a small portion of the property zoned A agricultural residential for the current owner who plans to subdivide this portion of the property and build a single-family house at this time. Staff recommends approval of resolution number 2023-171 with 2 conditions. Just for an explanation, the current owner, Mr. Hall, Jameson Johnny Hall, own this parcel. So they own this MUG, well, it's split zone MUG, R40, and then this triangle, which is roughly 1.65 acres, is zoned A, agricultural residential. And then there will be a public comment on this item.
Thank you. This time, before we hear from the applicant, I'll open a public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in regards to item number 15, please step forward and state your name. Seeing no one, I'll close the public comment and ask for a representative for the applicant to come forward.
Sir, Zach Baker, Greenlit Design. We are in agreement with all conditions. Happy to answer any questions.
Motion to approve with staff's 2 conditions of approval.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Matt Harris, seconded by C.J. Morrell to approve with staff's two conditions. Any discussion? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item number 16 is resolution number 2023-173, 446 East Main, Patel, rezoning, a rezoning with preliminary master development plan, and this will include a public comment.
The owner and applicant request approval of an ordinance to rezone 0.3 acres. This parcel is currently zoned CS Commercial Services, and they would like to rezone it to the MRO district with a preliminary master development plan for the Patel East Main rezone, located north of East Main Street and west of North Westland Avenue. The PMDP includes a duplex, 5 parking spaces, public and private sidewalk network, and stormwater features with landscaping buffers. The proposed duplex provides a suitable transition between residential use to the north and commercial uses to the south. The zoning with master development plan is consistent with the characteristics of the downtown core community character area. And the PMDP does include requests for approval of an alternative buffer yard plan for the Planning Commission to consider. The PMDP includes detailed architectural elevations for the proposed duplex. These elevations show a 2-story duplex featuring predominantly brick construction. This is consistent with the MRO zoning district. The Planning Department recommends approval of resolution number 2023-173. This item will require a public hearing and will move forward to City Council with the Planning Commission's review. Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian. Before we hear from a representative for the applicant, I'll open a public comment. If there's anybody who wishes to speak in regards to item number 16, please step forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and ask for a representative to come forward.
Sir Zach Baker, Greenlit Design. Again, we agree to all conditions of approval. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
I made the comment at the work session that this was a much better use of the property than the first one that came through, so I appreciate you guys working to get that to something that's a good-looking product in an appropriate spot. So with that, motion to approve with staff's conditions of approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Matt Harris to approve with staff's 5 conditions of approval, seconded by Albert Strada. I just have one question on the condition of approval, and they've agreed to it, but so we're asking them to get rid of the grass strip. I'm assuming there's not a grass strip on the other sidewalk up and down the street?
So the reason for that comment, as the greenway goes through or is constructed on North Westland, we imagine it to be directly behind a curb and gutter section.
Okay.
So just to match that.
Makes sense. Then we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 17 is resolution number 2023-167, Fox Creek Amended Preliminary Master Development Plan. This item will include a public comment and a vote on whether it is a major or a minor amendment. Which staff members present?
The owner applicant requests approval of an amended preliminary master development plan for Fox Creek, formerly known as Station Camp Creek, containing 140 single-family residential lots, 6 public rights-of-way, and 6 open space tracts on 59.4 acres located north of Long Hollow Pike and east of Arlington Park. Proposed changes to the plan include reducing the unit count by 2 units, revising site layout to remove alley-loaded units, a slight reduction in the area designated as open space, revising the architecture, and revising the proposed stormwater management system, including retaining the existing pond on the property. The applicant has proposed retaining the lots facing Long Hollow Pike as front-loaded, or not front-loaded, but front-facing to Long Hollow Pike with side-loaded garages. Planning staff recommends that this be considered a minor amendment and recommends approval of resolution number 2023-167 with 7 conditions.
Thank you, Jim. Before I hear from the applicant, I will open a public comment if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in regards to item 17, Fox Creek. Seeing none, I will, yes, please come. Seeing none, I will close the public comment and ask for a representative for the applicant to come forward.
Thank you, Commissioners. Andrew Walters with Catalyst Design Group. As Jim pointed out, the one change that we did make, we heard the feedback during the work session from the Commissioners related to the historical approvals of the project. And so we've committed to lots 1 through 8 and 60 through 64 would have these side entry garages and would have a front-facing presence out towards Long Hollow Pike. And so with that, we agree with all staff's comments and we request approval of the minor.
I'll entertain a motion as to whether it is a major or a minor amendment or discussion.
Move to be a minor.
A second.
We have a motion by Mr. Wilson that it be a minor amendment, seconded by Albert Strada. Any discussion on major or minor? Seeing none, then call for the vote. All those in favor of being considered a minor amendment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. It's a minor amendment onto the motion itself. Entertain discussion or a motion.
But no,
Like the changes you made. Thank you.
I spent some time looking at this and appreciate turning the houses around to get that front-facing facade down Long Hollow Pike. It's going to be a big improvement, and since I gave you such a hard time about it, I'll make the motion to approve it with staff's 7 conditions of approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Harris to approve with staff's 7 conditions of approval, seconded by C.J. Morrell. Any discussion? None, then call for the vote. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 18 is resolution number 2023-168, Volunteer Traditions, an amended preliminary master development plan and revised final master development plan, and this will include a public comment.
All right. The owner and applicant request approval of an amendment to the Greensboro Village Planned Unit Development and revised final master development plan for Volunteer Traditions on a 1.16 acre lot zoned MRO, multiple residential and office planned unit development district located north of Greenlee Boulevard and east of Greensboro Drive at 1045 Greensboro Drive. The applicant proposes to revise the existing plan to alter the proposed greenway alignment and design by providing shared roadway marking, also known as sharrows, within the Greenlee Boulevard and Greensboro Drive rights-of-way adjacent to the site. The site has existing utility infrastructure that impedes construction of the greenway extension adjacent to the site as originally approved here. The engineering department has added a condition regarding sharrows and how this conflicts with the MUTCD manual on uniform traffic control devices regarding bike lanes within circular roadways, roundabout roadways, and proposes that the applicant provide the existing, or provide a 10-foot wide sidewalk section throughout the site, or adjacent to the site, I guess is the right phrase, within the public right-of-way here, basically. Planning staff recommends that this be considered a minor amendment and recommends approval with 5 conditions.
All right, before we hear from the applicant, I will open a public comment if there's anyone who wishes to speak in regards to item number 18.
James Fenton, 273 East Eastland, here in Gallatin. As was mentioned, there is a considerable difficulty imposed by the high-pressure water line that comes through, and they aren't able to extend that back towards the building. And moving it out towards the street would eliminate trees that have already been planted there and really kind of disrupt the long-term aesthetics of what's there. And it's my hope that that doesn't get imposed upon them. It really doesn't. It won't look good there, and it's my hope that the sharrows will help alleviate that congestion there. In a rare conversation that I have opposing what the engineering department brings forward, and I apologize that. I just really feel in this point that it's. I would like for you to consider that. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and ask for a representative for the applicant to step forward.
I don't have to recuse myself from this item.
So noted.
Corey Nelson, 615 Design Group. We agree with city's comments minus the widening along the property line. As it was stated, there's a 12-inch high-pressure water line there. And wrapping around the site would cause that to be relocated, just simply, I don't want to say simply because greenways are very, very important, but for sidewalk due to elevation differences. I know that at the work session, we discussed with the sharrows, and then it seemed like further review that was brought before us. I think it was section 9C-04 for the MUTCD that you can't have it in a circular roadway. That really stinks. But we're looking to kind of find a way, an avenue where it's not going to cost my client hundreds of thousands of dollars to add in 5 foot of sidewalk, but also at the same time not ruin the aesthetics of the roundabout, the street lighting and the trees and kind of what the plan was for this roundabout. There is potential that we could try to, before the roundabout kind of has all its street trees and the street lighting, is widened towards the curb to the first pedestrian crossing right there on Greenlee Boulevard, which would be on the bottom right-hand corner right there, and widen that crossing. But welcome any questions or comments from from staff. Oh, let's see. Biden. So the 12-inch line, if you see right here, I don't know if you can zoom in at all to that. It looks like it was stopped right before that 12-inch line runs along right here, and then it runs along right up there. So widening this whole way would cause the whole 12-inch line. We're thinking about moving it towards the curb here and then crossing right there, which then would allow future impacts to come along here with the greenway to connect back over to the TVA easement. If I explained that correctly.
It made sense to me.
Would engineering like to comment on this situation?
Sure. So the master plan for the greenways showed this originally following the TVA easement got turned with the Knoll project. So the comments and the initial intent with this is to get it back up to that TVA easement line. This body has the ability to change how that goes there if y'all would prefer it going along Greenlee rather than coming up Greensboro. That's an option that you can explore. Jim, do we have the? So currently, this is not an exact one-to-one comparison, but currently we're working through the design plans for the Bly Avenue project. And Bly Avenue is going to have bike lanes. And this is how bike lanes were handled around this roundabout. So bike lanes along Bly were striped at the length of it, and there were special slanted ramps for the bikes. And instead of the path being 5 feet, it was wide to 10 feet. And in this case, it took up the grass strip, went up to the pedestrian crossing, continued through, came down, and then had another ramp a ways away from the roundabout where the sidewalk went back down to 5 feet and the bike lanes continued on, in this case, Dorothy Jordan. So this is what we had suggested, that they do something similar here, tie into the knoll, which already has the 10 feet, and then extend around to the existing crossing on the north side of that roundabout. But that would take up the grass strip from where it's 10 feet at the knoll up to that connection.
And the street lights.
Correct. It would take out the street lights and street trees and other.
I guess to get onto that business, I'll go ahead and make a motion that it's a minor amendment.
Do I hear a second? I'll second minor amendment. Discussion. Call for the vote. All those in favor of being a minor amendment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it is a minor amendment.
So Corey, my question is, so if you're on the adjacent property where the 10-foot wide strip stops, is it all the way to the property line, to your property, or is it stopping short?
It's stopping about, I think, about 20 feet, because you can see where the water line on the survey, if you want to pull that back up again. It seems like they probably found that water line and stopped at about 20 feet short of the property line.
Okay.
That was never brought to our attention until during construction with coordination with GPU.
Gotcha.
And kind of unveiling that.
So maybe a question
How deep it was.
for engineering or staff. So who's paying to get the last of that 20 feet to their property line? Are we asking them to do all of that, or just to fix it on their property?
I thought the knoll had gotten it to their property line. It's
My eyes are bad, so I don't know if you guys can see that, but I can't, so.
It looks, yeah, I mean, on the plan, when you zoom in, it's stopping short by what I would guess is about 20 feet. So
The Knoll Phase 1, which includes that portion of that sidewalk adjacent to their development, has not been accepted yet. So before final inspection and release of surety, that should be addressed by the developer to fill in that 20 feet or whatever that distance is.
Yeah, so where those bold sidewalk lines are is where they stop the shared use, the greenway. And it's hard to tell, but if you look at the existing conditions, that's exactly where the survey shows the high-pressure 12-inch water line coming through there. So that would be kind of where they stopped. I don't know if that was, I'm not even going to speak to that, so that's all I can know.
I mean, this is it's an interesting situation. We have an issue getting a greenway to connect that was caused by the greenway being relocated by a previous project that's now really forcing it to go through an area where it wasn't intended, where it's interacting with utilities that, you know, in some ways it's a problem that shouldn't be there. So I'm not a fan of getting rid of the grass strip and the street lights and the trees in order to pull this off. And you know, just from a practical standpoint, you know, I can understand the shared use in a circular road when you go, a good example, my son's going to school up at Bowling Green, and they've got some roundabouts that are 2-lane roundabouts that are really high trafficked, and I could see that being a bad place to do this. In this case, you got a low-speed residential street. It's a roundabout. I mean, I drive through here basically, well, I do several times a day, and I can't think of more than 1 or 2 times in 5 years of driving that street I've even had to stop for another car entering the roundabout at the same time. So I think in reality, the way this would function with the sharrows is that, you know, the bicycle traffic 90% of the time is probably going to wind up using the 5-foot sidewalk. And the folks who would use the roadbed are probably riding a road bike and they're probably already in the road anyway. So that's just my opinion. But I think it's, you know, we need to find a solution that's good for everybody for a problem that, you know, to get this realigned for a greenway being somewhere it wasn't intended to be years ago.
Do you have an attempt at a motion to reflect that opinion?
I was just waiting to see if anybody else had any comments on it. So, I mean, I think the motion's pretty easy. It's a motion to approve with staff's 5 conditions of approval, however striking condition 1.
Condition 2 references condition 1.
No, I think by condition 2, I got to get back up here to my.
Isn't it? Or doesn't condition 2 hinge upon condition 1?
Condition 2 is provide for sharrows on the eastbound lanes of Greenville Boulevard and the south lanes of Greensboro Drive with appropriate transitions to the Greenway facility as approved by the engineering division. Do you guys have a problem with that condition?
I mean, if staff's being so considerate, that's something we can look into. You basically just want the sharrows before the roundabouts.
Yes.
But not on the roundabouts, if I'm understanding correctly.
No, it's more that sharrows are basically on both sides of the street that would replace. So it's on this portion of Greenway and the northbound portion of Greensboro. It's on both sides, not just on the one side, because theoretically bike traffic would go both ways through your site as planned.
Yeah, you basically just want to illustrate the sharrows that the greenway would be using the road, and we're just going both ways, but not stripe on the roundabout, correct?
Stripe it on the roundabout. Yeah.
Correct. I mean, that seems in line with what the intent originally was before we came here for the
There can't
amendment.
be any striping in the roundabout for sharrows.
There can't be sharrows in the street, in the roundabout. I realize there can't be bike lanes, but there can't be sharrows.
I mean, it's my understanding, reading that chapter or that section of the MUTCD, that that bike lanes shall not be in the circular roadway of that, and that's.
Right, they weren't going to stripe bike lanes, they were just going to put sharrows.
That's more of a designation for a bike lane, correct, than a bike use, Because bike lane and shared road would be two different types of uses. MUTCD is just guidelines for permanent striping. You'd have to go to pedestrian and bikeway from FHWA to look at if a bike could use a roundabout, if I'm understanding that correct, from my years of utilizing that.
We would ensure that it would comply to the MUTCD.
Okay, so you guys can work it out to make sure that whatever goes in there is compliant with the MUTCD?
Correct.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to amend my motion to be an approval with staff's conditions of approval, striking condition 1, however, adding to condition 2 the language as acceptable to the engineering department in compliance with MUTCD.
I will second that. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion that Mr. Harris just stated, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, motion approved. Thank you. Item number 19 is resolution number 2023-175, McDonald's Restaurant at Newman's Crossing, a revised final master development plan.
Martinez, planning staff. The owner and applicant are requesting approval of a revised FMDP for the Newman's Crossing McDonald's located at 377 Big Station Camp. This site was previously approved for an FMDP on January of this year. Building permits have since been issued, and construction is well underway. During the site development phase, White House Utility District did request a revision be made to remove 3 parking spaces and alter the landscape plans to avoid impacts to an existing water line. Parking and landscape changes will comply with the minimum code standards. Staff recommends approval with 4 conditions. And I did want to address public comment. So there are residential units already constructed alongside of the property. And this site was approved with a opaque buffer and a fence dividing those two. Not sure if it's been removed, but before the site can be considered completed, before they can get any surety money back, we will make sure that there is a appropriate landscape buffer and fence.
Oh, for the benefit of the lady who spoke at public comment, quote back to you what you just said and tell me if I have it right, is that the opaque buffer and the landscape plantings that she asked to be included, they are already included and they will be constructed before CO is issued.
Yes, so the revision to this plan is actually to the parking that was adjacent to the landscape, or sorry, to the dumpster, which is actually on this portion. The residential side is down here.
Does the opaque buffer, is that a fence?
Yeah,
It is a fence and landscape.
that
Okay.
and some, I can't read it from here, but I believe we have some evergreens on that side.
If we have a representative, did you have anything else to add? No, okay. If we have a representative for the applicant, please come forward.
Matthew Allen with American Engineers on behalf of McDonald's.
Do you agree with staff's 4 conditions?
I do.
Do you want to address this lady's comments during public comment?
I briefly spoke to her during some of the other agenda items. I got her email address, her name and email address. I informed her that I would be happy to send her our landscape plan. I did forget to mention that we are putting in a fence. I don't recall right off the top of my head what type it is, but I can also provide her with the detail of what that's going to be. So she can take a look at it, review it, see if she has any comments. Obviously, McDonald's more than willing to review any comments that she has and try to accommodate them as much as possible.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, just to that point, I know we talked about that at length when this came through originally, and I think what's there is probably adequate. Just, I appreciate you getting with her to make sure that they're comfortable with it. So, but as to the removal of the parking spaces for the water line, I don't have a problem with it. You know, more of these quick serve restaurants are becoming more drive-through focused, and you know, less and less of the parking is being utilized anyway. So, with that, I'll make a motion to approve staff's 4 conditions of approval.
Second. Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Matt Harris to approve with staff's 4 conditions, seconded by Albert Strother. I have a question about the utility review. We send these site plans. Does White have an opportunity to review these and provide feedback, comments?
Yes, sir, they do.
Yeah, and no comments were given.
It's been a coordination issue ever since I've been here.
And that's all the more reason that I believe we need to accept these changes, because that was, yeah, don't need to say anymore. We have a motion on the floor with a second for approval. Any further discussion? Seeing none, then call for the vote. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. And opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item number 20 is resolution number 2023-176, GDE North Substation, a final plat.
All right. The owner and applicant request approval of a final plat for GDE North Substation subdivision consisting of a 2.65 acre lot zoned MU, mixed use district, and PVP planned business park. District located north of West Albert Gallatin Avenue and east of Highway 109. So this is the northeast corner of this intersection. Brand new, maybe y'all are familiar with. This plat was originally submitted as a one-lot in-house plat for a future substation. However, the applicant is asking for some exceptions to the plat that require planning commission approval. And as part of that, this plat is only for property transfer at this point. Any proposed use that comes in on this property will be required to submit an FMDP and finish out that process before any building permits are issued by the city of Gallatin. With that, staff recommends approval of resolution number 2023-176 with 10 conditions.
We have a representative for the applicant.
Yes, sir. Zach Baker, Greenlit Design. We're in agreement with all conditions. Happy to try to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, what are the changes or the variances y'all are needing to make this work?
I will have to defer to Jim because Zach Wilkinson worked on this.
So, basically, the plat does not show access to the property from Albert Gallatin, or sidewalks, along Albert Gallatin, which were part of the preliminary master development plan for all of Nexus. So basically, they would need to show where those locations will end up being at some point.
I mean, that would be for the purpose of the FMDP though, not the plat.
The sidewalks would definitely be, considering that they would most likely be in the right of way. So that would absolutely be part of the plat. That's part of the subdivision regulations, if I'm not mistaken.
Even if they're not there.
After speaking with City Engineer Nick Tuttle earlier, the condition about, or condition 6, about having a subdivision surety to cover the sidewalks, that can be removed from that, we don't feel that that is necessary at this stage.
So essentially, this would be, I mean, a substation right at the end of Albert Gallatin going to 109, so you'd be building a sidewalk to 109? I mean,
But that is the intention of the overall Nexus build-out, and if I'm not mistaken, I think there may be some widening that would happen there, so if it could change locations anyway if it was constructed right away.
any idea on how quickly we're going to get a substation built so we can get some power up there?
I can't answer that, no.
It is desperately needed, so.
Yeah.
All right, well, motion to approve with staff's conditions, 10 conditions of approval, however, striking condition number 6.
Second.
Yeah, we have a motion to approve with staff's 10 conditions, striking condition number 6, seconded by C.J. Morrell. Motion by Matt Harris, seconded by C.J. Morrell. Any discussion? Seeing none, they'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Do we have any other business?
You all have your calendars for 2024, and I believe you'll get an email of them if you haven't gotten it already, but we have that schedule finalized, and we'll advertise it in the paper in the next couple weeks.
I don't know if it goes under other business or announcements, but I want to take a moment to tell Bill he's going to be missed. And when Mayor Brown asked me a little over 5 years ago to consider joining the Planning Commission, Bill and I had several conversations and was very impressed in his dedication to the city and trying to do the right thing for the citizens, whether it was popular or not. And Bill, I can tell you, we may have not always agreed on a lot of things, or some things, but I've always appreciated your professionalism and dedication to the job and to the citizens of Gallatin, and enjoy your retirement.
If there are no other announcements, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll say something.
Bill,
if you don't
please.
mind.
You were being humble. I didn't know if you wanted to. Please, say something.
Well, I've been a planning director here for just over 10 years. I've enjoyed my stay here and the persons I've been able to meet in my time with the city, and that includes the public, certainly the Planning Commission, the council, applicants, a lot of variety of people, and they have different needs. And I've tried to balance those needs from the long-term aspirations of the city. So a lot of the things that, some of you didn't agree with me on, I understand that. I'm always thinking that, I'm not planning, or we're not planning this community necessarily for ourselves, but for the people who come after us. So we're looking for opportunities to make improvements that would facilitate their better use of our community and make it much more efficient than we have it today, or we've experienced it in the past. I know that kind of rubs folks the wrong way, and oftentimes, particularly with engineering, I butt heads with them on a lot of things, but we agree on a lot of things as well. So it's been a pleasure to serve the city of Melbourne. I had to say this before with another city, a couple other places actually, but Gallatin, Melbourne as well. I enjoyed working there as well. But it was, I've lived here and I've bought property here, and I may stay here for a while, and who knows what. I have aspirations to travel, and that I expect to do, and to continue my opportunities to learn about how things are done in other communities. And I encourage you to do that. It's not just going to TAPA events or any other training event. When you go somewhere, it's a learning opportunity. So spend time to look at what is going on in those communities, what works and what doesn't work, because there are other places who are kind of ahead of us, let's put it that way, and ahead of most of Tennessee for that matter. So be cognizant of what you see out there, ask questions, and ask why can't we have that here? Because you can have that here. And Gallatin can be the leader in Middle Tennessee in the Nashville area, or it can be a follower. And so sometimes it takes stepping outside the box to be able to achieve those things. I guess, one of the things you really need to look out for, and I could sit here all day, but, there's a lot of folks out there that are struggling, and they will continue to struggle, particularly in an inflationary time or a recessionary time. You need to be thinking about those folks. You need to be thinking about public transportation as well. Not just facilitating movements on the roads, but certainly greenways, and I've been a big advocate for greenways and sidewalks, and I hope that's kind of dug in. That's extremely important to developing your community. I'm not opposed to annexation, but not all the properties need to be annexed to within the confines or just outside the city, but most of them do. Maybe not to the extent of the urban growth boundary, but take into consideration the whole idea of the comp plan is to develop a more compact development pattern, but not to forego annexation completely. There are certainly properties that are ripe for and probably should have been annexed years ago, and there are properties that are in the city that were annexed that probably didn't need to be. So take that into consideration, and I'll be around a little bit, and who knows what role I may serve in the future. But I may come up and sit in the audience and just kind of shake my head and nod my head and things like that when things are going on. So I'll still be around here. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.